Most people wake up every morning already tired, not because the day has started, but because they know exactly how it will end. Alarm, commute, work, stress, bills, sleep, repeat. And somewhere deep inside, there is a quiet realization they try not to listen to. If I stop working, everything stops. That is not freedom. That is survival. And survival is expensive because the real cost isn't money. It's time. This audiobook is not about working harder. It is not about hustling forever. It is not about chasing the next paycheck. This is how to build assets that pay you forever. And once you understand this truth, you will never look at money the same way again. The lie that keeps people poor. You were taught one rule growing up: work hard, get a job, and you'll be safe. But safety was an illusion, because the moment your job disappears, your income disappears, your security disappears, your options disappear. That's not safety, that's dependency. The wealthy understand something most people never learn. Money should work harder than you do. They don't trade hours for dollars. They trade systems for freedom. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Hard work alone has never made anyone rich. Hard work makes you tired. Ownership makes you wealthy. The difference that changes everything. There are only two ways to earn money. 1. Active income. Money that stops when you stop. 2. Asset income. Money that continues without you. If your income requires your presence, your effort, your time, you don't own your life. Your life owns you. Assets are different. Assets work while you sleep. They earn while you rest. They grow while you live. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket without demanding your constant attention. Not someday, not after retirement, now. And the moment you understand this, a switch flips in your mind. Why time is the real currency. Money can be earned again. Time cannot. Every hour you trade for money is an hour you never get back. The wealthy obsess over one question: how can I separate my income from my time? Because once income is disconnected from time, freedom begins. This is why assets matter more than salaries. A salary pays you once. An asset pays you again and again and again. One idea can feed you for years. One system can fund your life. One decision can change your future permanently. The employee trap. Most people live in a loop they never question. They work to pay bills. They pay bills to survive. They survive to keep working. No matter how much they earn, the pattern stays the same. Raise the income, expenses rise. More comfort, more dependency, more responsibility, less freedom. This is not accidental. The system is designed to produce workers, not owners. But ownership is the exit. What assets really are. Assets are not just real estate or stocks. Assets are machines. Machines that convert effort into income long after the effort is done. Assets can be businesses, digital products, content platforms, intellectual property, investments, systems that scale, skills packaged once and sold repeatedly. The wealthy don't ask, how much does this cost? They ask, how long will this pay me? That question alone separates the rich from everyone else. The moment everything changes, there is a specific moment in every wealthy person's life. The moment they stop saying, how do I earn more? And start asking, how do I build something that earns without me? That question leads to leverage. Leverage leads to scale. Scale leads to freedom. And freedom changes how you think, how you live, how you move through the world. You stop rushing. You stop panicking. You stop trading your peace for money, because your money has started working for you. The real goal of wealth. Money is not the goal. Time is. Choice is. Peace is. Wealth is not about luxury. It's about control. Control over your schedule. Control over your environment. Control over your future. Assets buy that control. And the earlier you begin building them, the faster compounding starts working for you instead of against you. What this audiobook will do. In this audiobook, you will learn why trading time for money keeps people stuck, how assets are built from nothing, why ownership beats effort every time, how ordinary people create extraordinary leverage, how systems replace exhaustion, how patience creates exponential wealth, how to think like an owner, not a worker. This is not theory. This is the blueprint the wealthy quietly follow, while everyone else stays busy. Because once you see the game clearly, you stop running on the treadmill, you step off, and you start building something that never stops paying you. But before you can build assets, you must understand the most important distinction in all of money: assets versus liabilities. And almost everyone gets it wrong. Chapter 2. Before we continue, I want to say, my dear friend, if you are watching this video, then you are definitely on the right track. Like, subscribe, and write in the comments which topic or problem interests you the most. Chapter 2. Assets vs. liabilities. Why most people work their entire lives and still have nothing. There is a silent mistake that ruins people financially, and most never even realize they're making it. They think they're building wealth, but they're actually building weight that slows them down, weight that keeps them stuck, weight that demands constant effort just to stay in place. That weight has a name: liabilities disguised as success. The most important distinction in money: an asset puts money into your pocket, a liability takes money out of it. Simple. Yet almost everything society celebrates is a liability. Bigger house, newer car, fancier lifestyle, more subscriptions, more upgrades. It all looks like progress, but it quietly drains you. And here's the truth most people never accept: if it doesn't pay you, it owns you. Why high earners still stay broke. You've seen it. People making more money than ever, yet living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because income alone doesn't create wealth. Structure does. If every dollar you earn immediately disappears into expenses, you're not building wealth. You're feeding a machine that never stops eating. The wealthy understand this early. They buy assets first. Then they allow lifestyle to follow. Most people reverse it. They buy lifestyle first, then hope income will somehow catch up. It never does. The lifestyle trap. Lifestyle inflation is one of the most dangerous traps ever created. The moment income rises, expenses rise faster: more comfort, more convenience, more dependency. Soon, you're earning more, but you're more trapped than ever. You can't leave the job. You can't slow down. You can't take risks because your lifestyle has become a cage. Assets are the key out. Why assets create freedom. Assets don't demand your presence. They don't care if you're sick. They don't care if you're tired. They don't care if you take a day off. They work quietly, consistently, relentlessly. And every asset you own reduces pressure on your life. One asset pays a bill. Another replaces an income stream. Another buys your time back. This is how freedom is built. Not overnight, but inevitably. The wealthy think backwards. Most people ask, what can I afford? The wealthy ask, what will pay me back? They don't chase comfort. They chase cash flow. Because cash flow buys comfort permanently. The power of ownership. When you own assets, Something powerful happens psychologically. You stop panicking. You stop reacting emotionally to money. You stop living in fear of the next bill because your income no longer depends on your mood, your energy, or your time. It depends on systems, and systems are calm. Why this is necessary to become rich. Here's the truth no one tells you. You cannot outwork time. There are only 24 hours in a day. No matter how hard you try, you will eventually hit a ceiling. Assets remove ceilings, assets scale, assets compound, assets grow without asking permission. And compounding doesn't care how small you start. It only cares that you start. Small assets create big futures. Most people wait for the perfect moment. More money, more time, more confidence. The wealthy start with what they have: a skill, an idea, a small system, a simple asset. They build once. They refine slowly. They let time do the heavy lifting. That's how wealth grows quietly while others stay loud and busy. The invisible advantage: once assets begin paying you, life changes. Not dramatically at first, but deeply. Bills become smaller, stress fades, choices expand, and eventually something incredible happens. You realize you are no longer chasing money. Money is coming to you. The question that changes everything: ask yourself this honestly. If I stopped working tomorrow, what would still pay me? If the answer is nothing, then everything you own is a liability. But that can change. And it changes the moment you stop buying things that look rich and start building things that pay rich. Because the goal is not to look wealthy. The goal is to be free. And freedom begins with your first real asset. Next, we're going to talk about why passive income is not optional anymore, and why the future belongs to those who build systems instead of careers. Chapter 3. Why passive income is no longer optional. The shift that separates the future rich from the permanently busy. There was a time when working harder was enough. A time when loyalty paid. When effort was rewarded. When staying busy meant staying safe. That time is gone, and pretending otherwise is one of the most expensive lies you can believe. The world has changed, but most people haven't. Technology didn't just speed things up, it replaced things: jobs, industries, certainty. And here's the brutal truth: if your income depends entirely on your physical presence, your income is fragile. One illness, one burnout, one shift in the market, and everything stops. That's not stability, that's exposure. Passive income is not about laziness. Let's destroy a myth right now. Passive income does not mean doing nothing. It means doing the work once, then letting systems do the work forever. You work hard up front, so you don't have to work hard forever. That's not laziness, that's intelligence. Why working for money keeps you poor? When you trade time for money, you create a limit. You can only earn while you're present. You can only earn while you're alert. You can only earn while you're available. Time becomes your boss. And time is ruthless. It never slows down. It never negotiates. It never gives refunds. The wealthy understand something early. Time should work for you, not against you. That's what assets do. They turn time into an ally. Busy is not the same as productive. Most people are exhausted, not wealthy. They confuse movement with progress. More hours, more effort, more stress. But no leverage. Leverage is what multiplies effort, and assets are leverage in physical form. The 3 types of income. There are only 3 ways money comes to you. 1. Earned income, paid for time. 2. Portfolio income, paid for capital. 3. Passive income, paid for ownership. Earned income is the weakest. It stops the moment you stop. Passive income is the strongest. It continues even when you're silent. Why? Passive income creates peace. When income arrives without effort, something shifts inside you. You stop making desperate decisions. You stop tolerating toxic environments. You stop sacrificing health for survival because you're no longer fighting for oxygen. You're breathing, and breathing creates clarity. The emotional cost of no systems. Without assets, every expense feels heavy. Rent feels threatening. Bills feel urgent. Emergencies feel catastrophic. But with even one small passive stream, pressure drops. Not because you're rich, but because you're not helpless. Helplessness is the real enemy. Why most people never build passive income? Because it doesn't pay immediately. It requires patience. It requires belief. It requires discipline without applause. And most people quit before the compounding begins. They underestimate how long it takes and overestimate how hard it is. The compounding effect nobody talks about. Passive income compounds in two ways. Money compounds. Confidence compounds. Once you see money arrive without effort, your mindset changes. You think bigger. You plan longer. You stop rushing. And that shift alone makes you dangerous. In a good way. Small systems become powerful empires. Every great asset started small. One property, one product, one piece of content, one system. The difference? The wealthy didn't abandon it because it was slow. They understood. Slow at first is how everything that lasts begins. The future belongs to owners. Employees will always exist. Workers will always exist. But owners live differently. Owners don't panic during change. Owners don't fear disruption. Owners don't beg for raises. They adapt because they control systems. Ask yourself this question. If you continue exactly as you are today, where will your income come from in 10 years? The same place? The same job? The same effort? Or will it come from assets you built while others were distracted? The turning point. Passive income is not a luxury. It's insurance. It's leverage. It's survival in a changing world. And the earlier you start, the less you need to rush. Because once systems are built, they don't ask how tired you are. They just pay. Chapter 4. The assets that pay you forever. What real ownership looks like and why most people never reach it. Let's be clear about something before we go any further. Not everything that looks like an asset is actually an asset. Many things people call investments are just expensive responsibilities. A bigger house that drains cash, a flashy car that loses value daily, a business that only survives if you show up every morning. That's not freedom. That's a prettier cage. What an asset really is. An asset is simple. An asset puts money into your pocket, consistently, without requiring your presence. That's the standard. If it needs you every day, it's a job. If it stops when you stop, it's labor. If it pays whether you're awake or asleep, that's ownership. Asset category. For one, cash-flowing businesses. This is the purest form of leverage, a business that runs without you. Not because you're lazy, but because you built systems instead of chaos. These businesses rely on processes, delegation, automation, clear structure, not heroic effort. Most people fail here because they try to be the engine. The wealthy become the architect. Why systems beat talent? Talent burns out. Systems don't. Talent needs motivation. Systems need maintenance. When you build something that works without your mood, your energy, or your presence, you've crossed into a different class of thinking. You are no longer trading effort. You are collecting results. Asset category number 2, digital assets. This is where the modern world changed everything. A digital product can be created once and sold 1,000,000 times. Courses, books, software, licensing, content libraries. The power isn't in the product. The power is in scalability. Time stops being a limitation. Why digital assets are so powerful? Because they don't wear out. They don't break down. They don't need sleep. They don't complain. And once created, distribution becomes the work, not creation. Most people never build these because they underestimate their own knowledge. They don't realize what is obvious to you is valuable to someone else. Asset category 3, real assets that produce cash, not liabilities dressed up as status. Real assets produce income after expenses, rental properties that cash flow, storage, land with income potential, infrastructure that people rely on. The wealthy don't buy properties. They buy income streams wrapped in property. Big difference. Cash flow over ego. Ego wants appreciation. Wisdom wants cash flow. Cash flow pays bills. Cash flow buys time. Cash flow creates options. Appreciation is a bonus, not a strategy. Asset category, before, portfolio systems. Stocks don't make you rich. Ownership does. Dividend systems, index compounding, reinvestment strategies. This is slow money, but loyal money. It doesn't panic. It doesn't chase trends. It compounds quietly. The wealthy don't gamble here. They accumulate. The rule of ownership, diversification. The mistake beginners make is going all in on one asset. The wealthy spread risk across systems, not distractions. One digital asset, one cash flow business, one long-term portfolio, different speeds, different risk profiles, same direction. Why most people never build assets? Because assets don't validate you immediately. No applause, no instant reward, no social recognition. You work for months, sometimes years, before anything pays. And most people need applause to continue. The wealthy need conviction. The loneliness phase. Every asset has a lonely phase, where it feels pointless, where doubt creeps in, where nothing seems to move. This phase filters out 99%. If you survive this phase, you earn the right to compound. Ownership changes how you think. Once you own something that pays you, you stop chasing fast money. You stop reacting emotionally. You stop rushing decisions, because desperation disappears. And calm decision-making is a competitive advantage most people never experience. The most important truth: you don't need many assets. You need one that works, then another, then another. Wealth is not built in explosions. It's built in layers, and layers take time. In the next part, we're going to talk about how to start building assets even if you feel behind, broke, or overwhelmed, and why starting imperfect is not just acceptable, but necessary. Chapter 5. Start where you are. Mate, write which city you're from. It's interesting to see which corners of the world are watching our videos. Why being behind is actually an advantage. Let's confront the lie that keeps most people stuck. The lie is this: I'm too late. I don't have enough money. I miss my chance. That belief has destroyed more futures than lack of intelligence ever could. Because wealth doesn't reward timing. It rewards alignment. Why starting broke is not a disadvantage. When you're broke, you have clarity. You know what doesn't work. You feel the pressure of reality. You're not distracted by comfort. Comfort delays action. Pain accelerates it. Many of the wealthiest people didn't start early. They started desperate enough to commit fully. The real problem is not money, it's direction. Most people don't fail because they lack capital. They fail because they don't know what to build first. They try to invest without income, scale without systems, diversify without stability. That's backwards. Step 1. Build a skill that converts to cash before assets come income. Before income comes value. And value comes from skills that solve problems, not hobbies, not vague passions, not motivational ideas. Skills that save time, make money, reduce pain, increase efficiency. The market rewards usefulness, not enthusiasm. Why skills are the first asset. A skill is portable. It travels with you. It can't be taken. It compounds with experience. And once monetized, it becomes the fuel for everything else. Your first asset is your ability to generate cash on demand. Step 2. Turn active income into seed capital. This is where discipline separates fantasy from reality. You don't upgrade your lifestyle. You upgrade your position. Extra money doesn't mean better clothes or bigger apartments. It means funding future assets, buying leverage, reducing dependency. Every dollar has an assignment. The rule of capital protection. Before growth comes protection. You cannot build wealth while bleeding money. That means eliminating useless expenses, avoiding debt that doesn't produce income, saying no to ego purchases. Wealthy people are not cheap. They are intentional. Step 3. Build the first simple asset, not complex, not impressive, functional. Your first asset should be boring, predictable, understandable, repeatable. One small system that works. A digital product, a small service system, a simple rental, a cash flow channel. Complexity kills beginners. Why small wins matter more than big ideas. Momentum changes identity. Once you see money come in without effort, your brain rewires. You stop doubting possibility. You start expecting results. That shift is irreversible. Step 4. Reinvest, not reward. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They get one win and immediately spend it. The wealthy delay gratification because they understand compounding. They know. First money builds systems, later money buys comfort. Reverse that, and you stay trapped. The invisible years. There is always a phase no one sees, where income grows quietly, where systems stabilize, where patience is tested. This phase is silent, no applause, no validation, but it's where foundations are poured. Why speed is the enemy. Fast money creates fragile systems. Slow growth builds resilience. The goal is not fast wealth. The goal is unstoppable income, something that survives bad days, bad moods, and bad markets. The moment everything changes, there comes a moment when your assets cover your basic needs. That's not luxury, that's freedom. From that moment on, you negotiate from strength. You choose, not beg. You think long-term, and life becomes strategic instead of reactive. A question you must answer honestly. Are you building comfort, or are you building ownership? Because one feels good now, the other changes your entire future. Chapter 6. The mental shift that changes everything from worker thinking to owner thinking. Before money changes, identity changes first. This is the part most people skip, and the reason they keep running in circles. Because assets don't grow in the hands of someone who still thinks like an employee. The most dangerous question people ask, how much do I get paid for this? That question alone defines a worker mindset. Owners ask something different. How does this pay me repeatedly? The difference seems small, but it determines whether you build income or build systems. that outlive effort. Why hard work alone keeps you poor. Hard work without leverage is just exhaustion. You can work 14 hours a day and still remain broke if every dollar depends on your presence. That's not freedom. That's dependency with extra steps. Owners think in terms of leverage. Leverage means one action creates many results. One decision pays repeatedly. One system replaces hundreds of hours. Time is the most limited resource. Assets are time multipliers. The employee trap. No one talks about. Even high-income earners fall into this trap. Doctors, lawyers, executives, they earn well, but they stop earning the moment they stop working. High income without assets is still fragile. That's why many wealthy-looking people are one bad year away from collapse. Ownership is not about status. It's about control. Control over time, location, income flow, decisions. Ownership doesn't care how impressive it looks. It cares whether it works without you. The first ownership question you must ask: if I disappear for 30 days, does this still pay me? If the answer is no, you don't own income. You rent it from your energy. Why most people resist this shift? Because ownership requires patience. It delays gratification. It forces you to build before you enjoy. And most people are trained to consume first. Consumption is the opposite of wealth. Every unnecessary purchase pushes freedom further away, not because spending is evil, but because timing matters. Wealthy people don't avoid pleasure, they postpone it. Ownership demands a new discipline. You stop asking, what feels good right now? You start asking, what moves the system forward? This discipline isn't punishment, it's precision. The power of boring consistency. Assets grow quietly. Daily inputs, small optimizations, routine maintenance, nothing dramatic. But boring done consistently beats exciting done occasionally. Why most people quit too early? Because they expect validation. Assets don't clap. Systems don't praise you. Progress is silent until it isn't. The moment ownership becomes obvious. One day, income arrives without effort. You didn't push, you didn't negotiate, you didn't show up. Money just moved. That moment changes how you see the world forever. From that point on, you stop chasing opportunities. You build infrastructure. You stop worrying about money. You start managing flow. A hard truth you must accept. No one is coming to save you. No company, no government, no boss. Freedom is built, and ownership is the foundation. Chapter 7. Assets that survive time. What actually pays you forever and what never will. Not all assets are equal. Some look impressive, but decay fast. Others are invisible, yet compound quietly for decades. If you want money that keeps showing up without permission, you must understand which assets survive time. Because time is the ultimate filter. The first rule of real assets. If it requires your constant presence, it is not an asset. It's a job wearing better clothes. True assets work without supervision. They don't ask how you feel. They don't care if you're motivated. They execute. Asset type number 1. Cash flowing ownership. This is the foundation. Anything that produces predictable income, has repeat customers or users, can be systemized. Examples include businesses with processes, digital products with distribution, service companies that don't depend on you personally. Ownership matters more than size. A small system that pays monthly beats a large hustle that exhausts you. Why most businesses fail as assets. They are built around the founder's personality. When the founder leaves, the income leaves. That's not ownership. That's self-employment. Systems beat talent. Talent is fragile. Systems are durable. The goal is not to be irreplaceable. The goal is to be unnecessary. Asset type number 2, intellectual property. This is leverage in its purest form. You build once, you sell infinitely. Books, courses, licenses, frameworks, processes. Intellectual property scales without fatigue, and once created, it can outlive you. Why IP is the modern gold? It has low marginal cost, high scalability, global reach. One idea, properly packaged, can generate income across decades. That's not luck. That's structure. Asset type number 3, equity ownership. Equity is patience monetized. You don't earn immediately. You accumulate value silently, shares, ownership stakes, participation in growing systems. Equity rewards those who think long-term. Why short-term thinkers miss equity? Because equity pays later, and most people are trained to want everything now. But delayed rewards create disproportionate outcomes. Asset type number 4, automated distribution. Distribution is the forgotten asset. Attention channels, audiences, traffic systems, email lists, platforms you control. If you control distribution, you control opportunity. Money flows where attention already exists. Why distribution multiplies everything else. A mediocre product with great distribution wins. A great product with no distribution dies quietly. Ownership of attention equals ownership of outcomes. Asset type number 5, skill, stacks that create assets. Not all skills are equal. Some skills earn income once. Others build things that earn forever. Examples: writing that creates content libraries, coding that creates tools, design that creates templates, strategy that creates frameworks. The right skill builds something that survives you. What is not an asset, no matter what they say? Trading time for money, chasing trends, constantly restarting from zero, anything dependent on motivation. If it collapses when you stop pushing, it was never an asset. The compound effect of owning multiple assets. One asset is helpful. Multiple assets create resilience. When one slows down, another carries the load. That's how wealthy people stay calm during uncertainty. They don't rely on one source. They build ecosystems. Why this takes time and why that's good. Fast money teaches bad habits. Slow money teaches mastery. Assets reward those who can delay gratification and stay consistent. That's why so few people succeed here, and why those who do stay wealthy. The moment everything shifts, one day you realize you're no longer chasing money. Money is responding to systems you already built. At that point, effort becomes optional. Direction becomes everything. Chapter 8, The Invisible Enemy. Dear viewer, please write in the comments what interested you most in the video. This will help us improve our videos. Why most people never build assets, even when they know better. There is a silent force that stops more wealth than lack of money ever could. It's not ignorance. It's not opportunity. It's not intelligence. It's psychological resistance. And if you don't understand it, you will sabotage yourself again and again without realizing why. The truth, no one tells you. Building assets feels uncomfortable by design. If it felt easy, everyone would do it. Assets require delayed gratification, unseen effort, long periods without validation. The human brain hates all three. Your brain is wired for survival, not wealth. Your mind evolved to seek immediate reward, avoid uncertainty, conserve energy. Asset building violates every one of these instincts. That's why you feel resistance even when the logic is clear. Why people choose paychecks over ownership. A paycheck feels safe. It's predictable, it's immediate, it gives daily feedback. Assets feel uncertain, no applause, no instant reward, no guarantee. Your brain prefers certainty, even when it costs you freedom. The comfort trap. Most people don't fail because they lack ambition. They fail because they are too comfortable. Comfort delays urgency. Comfort softens discipline. Comfort convinces you that tomorrow is fine. But wealth is built by people who felt uncomfortable long enough to change. The fear of looking stupid assets require experimentation, which means failed attempts, bad ideas, learning publicly or privately. Most people avoid asset building because they fear looking foolish before success appears. They'd rather look competent forever than awkward briefly. That decision keeps them poor. Why hustle feels better than building. Hustle gives dopamine, movement, busyness, noise. Building assets gives silence, waiting, refinement, delayed payoff. Hustle makes you feel productive. Assets make you productive later. The identity problem. Here's the hidden truth. To build assets, you must outgrow your current identity. And your current identity fights back. If you see yourself as just a worker, not a business person, not creative, your mind will sabotage every attempt to change because identity protects itself. How the mind self-sabotages, it sounds like, this won't work anyway. I'll start when I'm ready. I need more information. This isn't the right time. These are not thoughts. They are fear responses disguised as logic. The pain of invisible progress. Assets grow quietly. For a long time, it feels like nothing is happening. This is where most people quit. Not because it didn't work, but because it didn't validate them fast enough. Why social pressure kills long-term thinking. Friends don't see your future. They see your present. And when you build assets, you earn less now. You work on things they don't understand. You say no more often. People resist what they can't measure. Even loved ones may discourage you, unintentionally. The loneliness phase. Every builder enters a phase where you're working quietly. Others seem to move faster. Results haven't arrived yet. This phase is not failure, it's initiation. Only those who pass through it reach leverage. The wealth divide is mental first. Before there is a financial gap, there is a patience gap. The wealthy delay gratification longer. That's it. The moment you win the internal war. Something changes when you stop needing proof. When you stop asking, is this working yet? And start asking, is this aligned with the future I want? At that moment, resistance weakens. Momentum begins. The decision that changes everything. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop seeking reassurance. You commit to building assets before they reward you. That is the line between workers and owners. Chapter 9. The invisible gap between work and wealth. Before wealth ever becomes visible, it forms in a place no one sees. Not in your bank account, not in your lifestyle, not even in your results. It forms in the gap between effort and ownership, between income and assets, between motion and leverage. Most people live their entire lives inside that gap without realizing it exists. They work, they earn, they spend, they repeat. And they never understand why money feels like a treadmill instead of a tool. This exists to close that gap permanently, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Why hard work feels empty without ownership. Hard work without ownership is exhausting. You can work 12 hours a day and still feel behind. You can increase your income and still feel trapped. You can succeed by every visible metric and still feel powerless. Why? Because effort alone does not compound. Only ownership does. When you work for money, the moment you stop, the flow stops. When assets work for you, time becomes irrelevant. The wealthy do not escape work. They escape dependency on work. The first mental break. Income is not wealth. This is where most people get stuck. They believe more income equals more wealth. It doesn't. More income without structure equals higher expenses, higher pressure, higher risk, higher burnout. Wealth is not what you earn. Wealth is what stays and multiplies. If money enters your life and immediately exits, you're not building wealth. You're managing survival at a higher level. Why the system is designed to keep you trading time. Look around. Education trains obedience. Jobs reward availability. Society praises busyness. Culture celebrates spending. Very little encourages ownership. That's not an accident. Time traders are predictable. Owners are independent. The system needs participants, not free thinkers. And the moment you decide to build assets, you stop being predictable. The real reason people fear asset building. It's not complexity. It's not risk. It's not lack of knowledge. It's delayed validation. Assets don't applaud you. They don't praise you. They don't reward you instantly. For a long time, they feel invisible, and most people quit in that invisible phase. The silent phase of every fortune. Every asset goes through 3 phases. 1, invisible. 2, uncomfortable. 3, unstoppable. Most people quit in phase 1. Some survive phase 2. Very few reach phase 3. Why? Because phase 1 feels like failure. Phase 2 feels like pressure. Phase 3 looks like luck, but it isn't. It's endurance. Why owners think differently about time. Employees ask, how much time will this take? Owners ask, how long will this pay? This single shift changes everything. Time becomes an input. Assets become the output. Owners are willing to work hard once so they don't have to work hard forever. The emotional cost of staying. A time trader. No one talks about this. But the deepest cost of working only income isn't financial. It's emotional. Anxiety when income pauses. Fear of saying no. Dependence on approval. Stress during uncertainty. Assets don't just pay money. They pay peace. Ownership is not about greed. It's about control. You don't build assets to be rich. You build them to be free. Free to choose. Free to rest. Free to walk away. Free to protect your energy. Money is simply the tool. Control is the reward. The moment you shift, everything changes. There will be a moment, quiet and uncelebrated, where you realize, I can't go back. You won't be able to unlearn this. You won't be able to justify pure consumption. You won't be able to ignore leverage. And from that moment on, your life splits into 2 timelines. What you do for money, what you build for freedom. This is about what happens after that moment. How to think when motivation disappears. How to build when results are slow. How to stay consistent when no one is watching. Because assets are built in silence, and silence is where empires begin. Chapter 10. Why most people never escape the money loop. There is a loop most people live inside their entire lives. They don't see it. They don't name it. But it controls everything. Earn, spend, stress, repeat. The loop isn't caused by laziness. It isn't caused by lack of intelligence. It isn't even caused by low income. It's caused by design. The loop was never meant to be broken. From the moment you're young, You're taught a sequence: study, work, earn, consume, retire. Notice what's missing: ownership, leverage, systems, assets. The loop rewards obedience, not independence. And as long as you stay inside it, your life energy will always be converted into short-term survival instead of long-term freedom. Why even smart people get stuck. This is uncomfortable, but it's true. Some of the smartest people you know are the most financially trapped. Why? Because intelligence without direction turns into overthinking, and overthinking delays action. They research, they plan, they wait, and while they wait, time passes. Opportunities compound for others, and the loop tightens. The comfort trap that feels like safety. The loop offers comfort. A paycheck feels safe. Routine feels stable. Predictability feels responsible. But safety is not freedom. Safety keeps you compliant. Freedom requires discomfort. Assets are uncomfortable at first. Ownership feels risky at first. Delayed rewards feel painful at first. That's why most people never leave the loop. Why consumption feels so good and costs so much. The loop feeds you dopamine. Buy something new. Upgrade your lifestyle. Reward yourself. And every reward reinforces the loop. Consumption gives pleasure now. Ownership gives power later. The loop trains you to prefer now over later. And wealth requires the opposite instinct. The real reason people say, "I can't afford to invest," when someone says, "I can't afford to invest," what they really mean is, "I can't afford to delay pleasure." Because investment is not about money first. It's about patience first. The poor spend first and hope later. The wealthy wait first and compound later. The day you realize time is the true currency, money can be lost and regained. Time cannot. Every hour you trade for money is gone forever. Assets reverse that equation. They allow money to be earned without trading additional hours. That's not luxury. That's logic. Why freedom always looks boring at the start. No one celebrates discipline. No one applauds delayed gratification. No one notices consistency. The beginning of asset building feels quiet, lonely, unexciting. That's why most people abandon it. They mistake silence for failure. The invisible advantage of those who stay. Those who stay don't feel special. They don't feel confident. They don't feel certain. They just keep building. And one day, quietly, the numbers change, not explosively, gradually, until effort decreases and results increase. That's when the loop breaks. What breaking the loop really feels like? It doesn't feel like winning the lottery. It feels like breathing easier, less pressure, more choice, more margin. You stop asking, "How do I survive this month?" and start asking, "What do I want my system to look like next year?" This is where the path splits permanently. Once you understand the loop, you have two choices: stay comfortable and dependent, or get uncomfortable and free. There is no neutral ground. The loop doesn't loosen, it tightens, and the only way out is ownership. In the next part, we go deeper into the psychology shift required to move from consumer to builder, the internal rewiring that must happen before any asset ever pays you a single dollar. Because money follows structure, and structure begins in the mind. Chapter 11. The identity shift, from consumer to owner. Before money ever changes, identity must change first. This is the part no one warns you about. You don't fail financially because you lack strategies. You fail because you keep acting from an identity that was never designed to build wealth. You were trained to consume, not to own. And until that changes, no system will save you. the invisible identity you're operating from. Most people walk through life with an unspoken label attached to them: employee, customer, user, client. Notice how none of those imply control. They imply dependency. They imply permission. They imply waiting. Ownership requires a completely different internal posture. Why consumers think differently than owners. A consumer asks, "What can I get from this?" An owner asks, "What can I build from this?" A consumer looks for discounts. An owner looks for leverage. A consumer wants convenience. An owner wants durability. These are not habits. They are mental defaults. The painful moment when you realize you've been trained. This realization hurts. You start seeing how your attention has been harvested, how your desires were programmed, how your spending habits were engineered. The system didn't want you poor, it wanted you predictable. Predictable people are profitable. Independent people are not. Why most people resist the owner identity. Ownership feels heavy. It carries responsibility. It carries uncertainty. It carries delayed gratification. Consumption feels light. Swipe, click, buy, enjoy. Ownership says, wait, plan, build, maintain. That's why the transition feels uncomfortable. Your nervous system is adjusting. The emotional withdrawal. No one talks about when you stop over-consuming, something strange happens. You feel bored, restless, unstimulated. That's withdrawal. Your brain was used to constant dopamine. Ownership is slower, quieter, deeper. If you quit during this phase, you return to the loop. If you endure it, your perception changes forever. Ownership starts with how you see problems. Consumers complain about problems. Owners monetize them. Every problem is friction. Every friction is opportunity. But only if you're looking through the lens of creation. Why ownership is built in private. No one applauds you while you're building assets. There are no likes for spreadsheets, no applause for reinvestment, no recognition for patience. That's why ego-driven people fail here. Ownership requires humility. The moment you stop needing permission, the real shift happens quietly. You stop asking, "Is this allowed?" and start asking, "Is this viable?" You stop waiting to be chosen. You choose yourself. That's ownership. Why this shift changes how you see money. Money stops being emotional. It becomes functional, not a reward, not a status symbol, a tool, a worker, something you send out with instructions and expect back with friends. The day you realize you're no longer the product. When you build assets, something profound happens. You stop being sold to as easily. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing external approval because you're building something that exists without applause. This is the true beginning of wealth, not income, not luck, not intelligence, identity. Once you see yourself as an owner, your decisions change, your patience expands, your tolerance for short-term pain increases, and that is when assets finally start sticking. In the next part, we will break down why active income alone can never create freedom, no matter how high it gets, and why even high earners remain trapped without systems that work without them. Because effort is not the enemy. Dependency is. Chapter 12, Why Hard Work Alone Will Never Set You Free. Please like and subscribe if you want a better future for your children, your family, and yourself. It's very difficult to achieve success today, but I'm sure you'll succeed. All you have to do is learn and discover new things. This is the lie that traps millions for life. The lie sounds noble. It sounds disciplined. It sounds responsible. Work hard, and everything will work out. But hard work without ownership doesn't create freedom. It creates dependence with better furniture. The difference between effort and leverage. Effort is linear. You work 1 hour, you get paid for 1 hour. When you stop, income stops. Leverage is exponential. You work once, it pays repeatedly. The wealthy are not allergic to work. They are allergic to work that ends when they do. Why high earners still feel trapped. This is the quiet tragedy. Doctors, lawyers, executives, top performers, 6-figure incomes, 7-day schedules, zero freedom. Why? Because they earn active income only. Their lifestyle is powered by presence. Remove the person. The money disappears. The cage that looks like success. The nicer the cage, the harder it is to see. Better car, bigger house, more obligations. Every upgrade increases the monthly burn rate. Now quitting feels impossible. This is not freedom. It's a well-decorated treadmill. Why time is the real currency. Money is replaceable. Time is not. If your income requires your constant presence, you are trading the only non-renewable resource you have. The rich don't avoid work. They avoid time-bound work. The moment you realize you're renting your life at some point, it hits. Vacations feel rushed. Weekends feel short. Nights feel anxious. Because your life is on lease. Miss a payment, everything collapses. Ownership removes that pressure. Why assets are the only escape route. Assets don't need motivation. They don't burn out. They don't get sick. They work while you think, while you sleep, while you learn. This is not laziness. It's intelligence applied to time. The shift from I work to I deploy. Poor thinking says, I work for money. Well thinking says, I deploy resources, time, capital, knowledge, systems. Work becomes strategic, not exhausting. Why most people never make the shift? Because effort feels virtuous. You can feel productive while going nowhere. Assets require delayed reward, delayed validation, delayed gratification. Most quit before compounding begins. The first asset is always uncomfortable. Your first asset won't feel magical. It feels small, slow, underwhelming. That's normal. Compounding starts invisible. Why quitting too early is the real failure. People abandon assets before momentum. They say, it's not working. But it was, just quietly. The wealthy never ask, how much can I earn? They ask, how many times can this effort pay me? That question changes everything. This is the line you must cross. At some point, you must decide, will your income always depend on your presence, or will your presence become optional? Freedom lives on the other side of that choice. Chapter 13, the only 3 asset types that actually create freedom. Not everything called an asset will set you free. This is where most people waste years. They buy things that look impressive. They chase ideas that sound intelligent. They invest in complexity before understanding leverage, and they end up busy, but still trapped. So let's strip this down to truth. There are only 3 asset categories that consistently create long-term freedom. Everything else is noise. Asset type number 1, ownership. Assets. Ownership means control, not partial control, not borrowed control, real control. These assets pay you because you own the system, not because you show up. Examples: businesses, brands, equity, intellectual property, digital platforms. Ownership assets scale because they are not tied to your hours. You build once, you improve, you optimize, then they pay repeatedly. Why ownership is power. When you own the asset, you decide pricing, you decide growth speed, you decide exit timing. This is why the wealthy don't ask for raises. They redesign systems. The trap: confusing income with ownership. Many people say, I run a business. But if the business stops without them, they don't own a business. They own a job with stress. True ownership survives absence. Asset type number 2, leveraged systems. Leverage means one action produces multiple outcomes. These assets multiply effort. Examples: automated services, scalable software, content engines, subscription models, licensing structures. Leverage removes exhaustion from wealth creation. Why leverage is non-negotiable: without leverage, growth is slow. Burnout is guaranteed. Ceilings are permanent. With leverage, progress accelerates. Energy is preserved. Ceilings disappear. The big mistake people make: they build systems that still depend on them emotionally. If the system needs your motivation every day, it's not leverage, it's disguised effort. Asset type number 3, capital multipliers. These assets don't require management, they require patience. Examples: index ownership, cash flowing instruments, royalties, equity stakes, compounding vehicles. They grow quietly, and that's why people ignore them. Why boring assets create wealth. Excitement fades, compounding doesn't. The wealthy love boring systems that print consistently. Emotion is expensive. Consistency is profitable. The asset pyramid. This matters. Here's the structure the wealthy use: top layer, ownership; middle layer, leverage-based layer, capital multipliers. Most people invert it. They chase fast money first. That creates instability. The rich build stability first. Speed comes later. Why? Passive income is misunderstood. Nothing is passive at the start. Assets demand setup, learning, adjustment, discipline. What becomes passive is maintenance, not creation. People quit during creation. That's why freedom looks rare. The first asset should feel underwhelming. If your first asset feels exciting, it's probably risky. Small, slow, quiet. That's correct. Momentum comes after survival. The real question you should ask: not, how much does this make, but how long will this pay me? Time is the filter. Why most people never escape the income loop. They chase novelty. They abandon compounding. They confuse motion with progress. Assets reward patience. Jobs reward urgency. Choose carefully. Chapter 14. Why most people kill their assets before they pay. Assets don't fail. People abandon them. That's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to face. Because if assets were the problem, quitting would feel logical. But assets aren't the problem. Impatience is. The deadly phase nobody talks about. Every asset goes through the same invisible phase. It looks like this: effort with no feedback, progress with no validation, work with no applause, systems with no income. This phase destroys more dreams than lack of money ever could, not because it's hard, but because it's quiet. Why the mind panics in silence. Your brain evolved to respond to immediate reward. Assets delay reward. That delay creates doubt, anxiety, overthinking, comparison, self-sabotage. Most people interpret silence as failure. The wealthy interpret silence as incubation. The comparison poison. This is where people die. They build an asset. Then they look sideways. They see someone growing faster, someone making noise, someone flexing results. And suddenly they question everything. They pivot. They restart. They abandon momentum. Assets don't compound under comparison. They compound under consistency. Why restarting is more dangerous than failing. Failure teaches, restarting resets. Every restart kills. Data, learning, system memory, momentum. Most people are beginners forever, not because they lack skill, but because they keep resetting the clock. The invisible progress rule. Assets grow underground before they grow upward, like bamboo. Years of nothing. Then explosive growth. Quit too early and you never see the result. Why emotional discipline matters more than strategy. Strategy can be learned in weeks. Emotional control takes years. Assets demand boredom tolerance, delayed gratification, long-term thinking, ego suppression. That's why intelligence alone doesn't build wealth. Patience does. The urge to fix what isn't broken, another killer. People see slow growth and panic. They change. Pricing too early. Direction too often. Strategy without data. They mistake stillness for stagnation. Sometimes the best move is not touching the system. The hardest skill, doing nothing at the right time. This sounds simple. It's not. Doing nothing feels irresponsible, but premature action is often destructive. The wealthy wait. The impatient interfere. Why most people sell too early assets scare people when they start working. Income increases, responsibility increases, risk feels real, so they cash out early. Not because it's smart, because fear spikes. They trade lifelong freedom for short-term relief. The final shift, from effort to structure. Effort is temporary, structure is permanent. The rich don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. When motivation fades, systems continue. This is the final lesson, why willpower fails and systems don't. Willpower is emotional. Systems are mechanical. Willpower depends on mood. Systems depend on design. If your wealth plan requires you to feel like it, you don't have a plan. You have a hope. The rule of automaticity. Anything that must be decided every day will eventually be abandoned. The wealthy automate. Saving, investing, reinvesting, learning, asset maintenance. Decisions are removed. Processes remain. Building a life that feeds your assets. Your environment should push you toward ownership, not consumption. That means fewer distractions, less noise, controlled information intake, scheduled creation time. You don't wait to feel inspired, you protect time for building. The daily owner routine, simple but rare. Owners don't fill their days with chaos. They do 3 things consistently. 1. Maintain existing assets. 2. Improve systems slightly. 3. Plant 1 new seed, small actions. Relentless repetition. Why busy people stay poor. Busy feels productive, but busy rarely builds leverage. Leverage requires stillness, focus, deep work. Noise steals ownership. The asset stacking effect. 1 asset changes your income. Multiple assets change your identity. Eventually, your assets begin to support each other. Cash flow funds new projects. Skills create opportunities. Networks multiply. Reach momentum compounds. When you know you've crossed the line, you'll notice it quietly. Money stress fades. Time opens. Options expand. You stop asking, how do I make money? And start asking, what do I want to build next? That is freedom. The final truth about forever income. Nothing lasts forever, but systems last long enough to free you, and freedom is the real currency. Your last choice. You can keep trading time for money, or build something that outlives your effort. The difference is not intelligence, it is commitment to ownership. Final words. Assets don't change your life overnight. They change it inevitably, quietly, relentlessly, permanently. And one day, without warning, you'll realize you're no longer working for money. Money is working for you. That is the moment you win. If this audiobook changed the way you see money, share it, and ask yourself one final question. What asset will you start building today?